Hello everyone. I'm really glad to present my work entitled Damage Effect on Adaptation of Human Trabecular Bone, a novel computer model validated with an in vivo human study, and my name is Juan Du. I've recently joined Academy of Medical Engineering and Translational Medicine in Tianjin University. Just give you a little bit introduction of my new affiliation. So Tianjin University is the first modern university in China, which has a 125 years old history, and it is ranked top 10 uni in China. But most of the work I present here was conducted in Loughborough University during my PhD study. As you can see, the study is widely collaborated between Wolfson School, which is the engineering part of Loughborough University, and the National Center for Sports and Exercise Medicine in Loughborough University, and the University of Sheffield. So a little bit background of the study. As you can see from the left-hand side corner on these slides, this typical trabecular bone microstructure of osteoporosis. It will cause a loss of microstructure of your bone. And osteoporosis is a very common disease in elder people. It is caused by the disorder of bone remodeling process. In the UK alone, around 3 million people are affected by the osteoporosis, and it costs 1.5 billion in England every year, according to NHS report. Despite the large financial burden, research can be used in the early diagnosis, treatment, and prediction related to this disease is still very limited. The understanding and investigation of trabecular bone adaptation is important for us to understand not only the bone disease like osteoporosis, but also for other applications like osseointegration or dental implant to investigate how the bone is remodeled around the implant. So it is well established at the cell level about the remodeling process. So the process is taken by a group of cells called the bone unit cells, including osteoclast and osteoblast, which considered as bone resorption cell and bone formation cell. However, what signals can trigger these cells' activity is still under debate. So the signal, like the mechanical signal, it is been proved has widely effect on this process. But how this process is affected by the mechanical impact is still under debate. So a lot of hypotheses try to describe the effect of mechanical load in the remodeling process. So the first hypothesis is described by Wolff's law. It says the bone is formed where there's mechanical need and is resolved where there's no mechanical needed. And later on, mathematical models or the algorithm try to describe this process. The most famous and widely used trilinear curve, as shown in the slides, it describes this adaptation process by two thresholds. So when the mechanical stimulus or mechanical signal is below the first threshold, it is considered as a bone resorption stage. When it's between these two thresholds, it's considered as lazy zone, which nothing gonna happen. And when it's beyond the second threshold, it's considered as a bone formation zone. However, this algorithm has certain limitations. So when the mechanical stimulus is continuously increasing, it will cause microcracks or damage instead of, like he said here, the bone is continuously forming itself. And also there's an SAM images shown an osteoclast activity on a very thin horizontal thrust of trabecular. It is believed this cell resorption activity is caused by the microcracks. So in this study, micro damage effect was included in the algorithm to compare the different mechanical stimuli, the effect of different mechanical stimuli on the prediction of trabecular bone microstructure change. So to validate the novel algorithm, an in vivo human study was included for the first time. So a 6-month unilateral exercise was designed. After and before and after the exercise, the distal tibia was scanned by an HRPQ CT scanner with a resolution of 82 micrometers to check the microstructure of a trabecular microstructure change of trabecular bone at distal tibia. After the HRPQ CT scan, an inhomogeneous material model was created. So the inhomogeneous material model was created based on the grayscale distribution of the CT images and our novel two-phase, including the bone marrow FE model, was used to simulate the exercise effect. And in this model, the real ground reaction force measured during the whooping exercise was used as an imposed at the distal end of tibia, and the proximal end of tibia was constrained. So the entire workflow of the simulation is summarized in the flow chart. So the yellow box is the previously image processing from the HRPQ CT scan to the FE model, and the blue box shows the bone remodeling algorithm. So the process basically treats the bone remodeling process. It's assuming that bone responds to the local mechanical environment and resulting in an on-off manner. When the mechanical signal, in this case, I use the strain and strain gradient, was calculated from the FEA, and it was used as an input to decide the bone remodeling process, whether it is in the bone resorption or bone formation or lazy zone equilibrium stage. And the density of the trabecular bone was updated due to this mechanical signal. And the newly formed morphology was used as a new input to calculate the updated mechanical signal until the end of the last step, which represents the end of 6 months exercise. So this slide shows the result of the simulation. It shows the distribution of the density. Only by visualize the result, it can, from the strain result of the strain stimuli on the very early stage, it can be seen that the many low density newly formed bone can be observed, and as the simulation time goes on, the density seems like it continues gradually decreasing. It's decreased, and it also is decreased. Obviously, the microstructure of the simulated result is also measured with the comparison of the experimental data. So the table shows here, showing us the error of the strain predicted microstructure is way lower than the strain gradient predicted value. And the error is between 5.6 to the highest 9.4, which was found in the plate-like structure fraction. So after I summarize the density distribution in the histogram, I found that the predominant density range is gradually decreased with time. And most interestingly, I found the early stage overshoot is indeed due to the large formation of less mineralized bone, and then it has been resolved very soon. So the peak density range is decreased by 0.1 per 2 months for the strain grade for the strain stimuli, and it's 0.1. Also 0.1 for the peak density of the strain gradient stimuli. Okay, in conclusion, this is the first model of human trabecular bone adaptation considering the damage effect with validation against the novel in vivo data. So inhomogeneous model, material model, might be reflect a real life situation. The early stage overshooting of volume fraction was observed, and it is probably due to the formation of less mineralized bone. So using a strain gradient as a mechanical stimuli could cause a higher bone loss in volume. However, the decrease of peak density range is slower than using strain as a mechanical control variable.